Tombstone, 1993, once celebrated the indomitable legendary gunslingers. Yet more than 30 years later, time and tragedy have weighed them down with illness, age, and even death. Who has fallen? Who still endures beneath the fading glow of glory? Let us uncover the painful truths behind each name. Charlton Heston as Henry Hooker. When Charlton Heston was 70 years old, he took on the role of Henry Hooker in Tombstone, 1993, a wealthy rancher of integrity and generosity. Although it was only a small role, he left audiences in awe with the dignity and presence of a true legend. His appearance was like an exclamation mark, summing up the long journey he had lived. He was born on October 4, 1923, in Wilmette, Illinois, under the birth name John Charles Carter. Heston shared a marriage lasting more than 6 decades with Lydia Clark, which seemed to be a safe harbor amid life's storms. Yet in 2002, he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, a cruel illness that slowly stripped away memory, intellect, and the strength of a man who had once held the world captive with his heroic roles. It was a heartbreaking turning point that transformed an indomitable legend into someone weak and helpless against his own body. In his final years, Heston lived in a state of slow decline. Once a symbol of strength, illness reduced him to a shadow of his past. On top of that, he became embroiled in heated controversy as president of the National Rifle Association, where his uncompromising stance turned many colleagues against him. A star who had once shone brilliantly in Hollywood now faced both the ravages of disease and the harsh judgment of the public, leaving behind an image at once pitiable and tragic. On April 5, 2008, Charlton Heston passed away in Beverly Hills, closing the curtain on 84 turbulent years. He left behind an estate estimated at $40 million, but the numbers were only the surface. The image of him standing tall on the chariot in Ben-Hur remains an eternal symbol, a reminder that even though his body is gone, Charlton Heston lives on forever in the hearts of audiences. Kurt Russell as Wyatt Earp. When Kurt Russell was 42 years old, he played the lead role of Wyatt Earp in Tombstone, 1993, the quiet yet unyielding lawman caught on the thin line between justice and vengeance. This role not only made him the soul of the film, but also cemented his position as an icon of the Western genre, where every look and every action carried both determination and inner turmoil. Born on March 17, 1951, in Springfield, Massachusetts, Kurt Vogel Russell once dreamed of a life far removed from Hollywood's bright lights. Gifted with natural athletic talent, he became a promising baseball player, hoping to carry on his father's passion. But tragedy struck when Russell suffered severe injuries to his shoulder and elbow, forcing him to abandon his baseball career just as it was beginning. That cruel fall forever buried his youthful dream, leaving an emptiness he could never truly fill. After that devastating blow, Russell was forced back into acting, a path that had only ever been his backup plan. Though he rose to the heights of Hollywood with a long list of classic roles, deep down he carried the pain of the dream that had been stolen from him. He once admitted that he still thought about baseball well into his 30s, as if it were a spiritual scar that never faded. Even when portraying invincible heroes on screen, Russell remained a man who had once fallen, forced to be reborn in a world he had never truly chosen. In 2025, Kurt Russell is 74 years old. He continues to persevere on the big screen, from Marvel blockbusters to independent projects, proving the rare endurance of a star who has known great loss. His net worth is estimated at around $110 million, coming from film, real estate, and his passion for winemaking. Carey Jr. as Marshall Fred White. When Carey Jr. was 72 years old, he played Marshall Fred White in Tombstone, 1993, a man of integrity who was quickly cut down in the storm of Western violence. Though his scenes were brief, with his seasoned presence and eyes steeped in sorrow, Carey Jr. turned the role into a farewell to a lifetime dedicated to the Western genre. He was born on May 16, 1921, in Saugus, California, on the sprawling ranch of his parents, veteran actors Carey Sr. and Olive Carey. In 1944, amid the fire of World War II, Carey Jr. married Marilyn Fix, the daughter of actor Paul Fix. Their marriage lasted for more than 6 decades, but it carried deep scars. Carey Jr. often witnessed his wife struggle with illness until she passed away before him, leaving an irreplaceable void in the heart of the aging man. After leaving the battlefield and returning to acting, Carey Jr. believed that love and family would be his anchor. Yet the overwhelming shadow of his legendary father left him feeling overshadowed his entire life. His long marriage with Marilyn was the brightest light in his journey, but the deeper that love was, the more devastating the loss became in the end. For many of his later years, he lived surrounded by memories both sweet and bitter, like an old film that kept replaying endlessly. On December 27, 2012, Carey Jr. took his last breath in Santa Barbara, closing the curtain on 91 years of life. His net worth was estimated at around $5 million, not much compared to some of his contemporaries, but his greatest legacy was the image of the red-haired cowboy with sorrowful eyes, a figure audiences cherished for more than half a century. With his passing, Hollywood lost not only one of the last witnesses of the John Ford and John Wayne era, but also a heart that endured a lifetime in silence. Sam Elliott as Virgil Earp. When Sam Elliott was 49 years old, he appeared as Virgil Earp in Tombstone, 1993, the eldest brother of Wyatt. With his rugged face, trademark mustache, and resonant deep voice, Elliott brought the character both authority and melancholy, as if he were a Western spirit stepping straight out of memory. The role not only cemented his cowboy persona, but also allowed audiences to feel the weight of a life weathered by storms. Samuel Pack Elliott was born on August 9, 1944, in Sacramento, California. In 1984, he married actress Catherine Ross, a love that has endured for 4 decades. But their long-lasting happiness was not without turbulence. Ross endured setbacks in her career, while their daughter Cleo faced personal crises that shook the household. Marriage became both a refuge and a test, leaving behind cracks that were not easily healed. From those fractures, Elliott was forced to live with inner torment. He once struggled to maintain the image of an unyielding cowboy, but the turmoil of his private life left his heart bearing many wounds. As he grew older, he faced public controversy over careless remarks, which shook the tough image he had built for decades. Behind Hollywood's spotlight, Sam Elliott remained a lonely man, fighting battles of pain invisible to others. By 2025, Sam Elliott is 81 years old. He continues to act, especially in Western projects like 1883, though his strength has diminished. His net worth is estimated at around $20 million. Today, Sam Elliott inspires both admiration and sorrow, for behind the glow of a legend lies a heart covered in scars. Bill Paxton as Morgan Earp. When Bill Paxton was 38 years old, he played Morgan Earp in Tombstone, 1993, the youngest and most loyal of the Earp brothers. With bright eyes and a gentle, humane innocence, he brought warmth to the film, making the character's tragic death all the more haunting. That role not only stirred compassion for Morgan, but also seemed like a dark foreshadowing of Paxton's own short life in reality. He was born on May 17, 1955, in Fort Worth, Texas. In his personal life, Paxton experienced a devastating blow. His first marriage to Kelly Rowan ended after only a single year. The collapse left him with deep insecurities about love and stability. Later, he remarried Louise Newberry, with whom he shared more than 3 decades and 2 children. But the memory of that early failure never left him. It became a shadow that he could never truly escape. This fragility in marriage shaped the depth of his performances, but also left Paxton emotionally drained. He often sank into anxiety, driven by perfectionism that made him tense on set. His private insecurities fueled his determination to prove himself professionally, but the price was a soul repeatedly fractured. Behind the smiles and humor of Wild Bill, as his friends knew him, was a sensitive man living in constant fear of losing the fragile happiness he fought so hard to preserve. On February 25, 2017, Bill Paxton passed away in Los Angeles from complications after heart surgery at the age of 61. His family later sued the hospital for suspected medical negligence, turning a private tragedy into a prolonged legal battle. Paxton left behind an estimated net worth of $25 million, along with the unforgettable image of Morgan Earp, gentle, loyal, and struck down in Tombstone. Val Kilmer as Doc Holliday. When Val Kilmer was 34 years old, he transformed into Doc Holliday in Tombstone, 1993, a sickly yet brilliant gunslinger, cold, sharp, and tinged with madness. With a mesmerizing performance, he turned Doc Holliday into the soul of the film, delivering one of the most acclaimed portrayals in the history of Western cinema. The role became his destiny, reflecting the trajectory of Kilmer's own life. Val Edward Kilmer was born on December 31, 1959, in Los Angeles, California. In 1988, he entered what many saw as one of Hollywood's most beautiful marriages, when he wed actress Joanna Pacula. Yet behind the glamour, the union quickly unraveled amid suspicions of alcoholism, a fiery temper, and domestic disputes. Their divorce in 1996 not only took away the woman Kilmer once dreamed of meeting in a vision, but also left him with a loss that never fully healed. The fallout from that broken marriage weighed heavily as Kilmer's career began to unravel. He gained a reputation in Hollywood as difficult to work with, clashing often with directors and co-stars. In 2015, he was diagnosed with throat cancer and lost his voice, the most precious tool of any actor. His declining health and financial struggles forced him to sell off assets just to pay medical bills. Once a star who wore the Batman mask, Kilmer slowly faded into a lonely figure, living on memories of a past glory. On April 1, 2025, Val Kilmer died in Los Angeles from pneumonia complications after years of battling cancer at the age of 65. His net worth was reduced to only about $10 million, a small fraction of what it had once been during the peak of his stardom. Powers Boothe as Curly Bill Brocious. When Powers Boothe was 45 years old, he transformed into Curly Bill Brocious in Tombstone, 1993. The leader of the Cowboys gang, a villain both charismatic and ruthless. With his piercing eyes and trademark gravelly voice, Boothe created a Curly Bill to remember, turning the outlaw into one of the finest performances of his career. He was born on June 1, 1948, in Snyder, Texas, into a poor farming family. In 1969, Boothe married Pamela Cole, his lifelong partner for nearly half a century. Their marriage seemed like an unshakable anchor, but when pancreatic cancer struck in his final years, Pamela was forced to watch her husband wither away in agony day after day, a devastating ordeal that plunged them both into despair. The endurance of love could not stop the cruelty of illness. Boothe had been a strong man, surviving a serious car accident and even facing harsh criticism from his peers when he crossed picket lines to accept his Emmy in 1980 during a strike. But against cancer, he was powerless. In his last days, Boothe endured failed rounds of chemotherapy, his body deteriorating, while Pamela held his hand through each painful moment. Their 48-year love story ended in tears and helplessness. On May 14, 2017, Powers Boothe died in Los Angeles at the age of 68, following cardiac arrest related to pancreatic cancer. He left behind an estate estimated at around $8 million, earned from roles in Deadwood, Agents of Eld, and his personal ranch in Texas. Stephen Lang as Ike Clanton. When Stephen Lang was 41 years old, he appeared in Tombstone, 1993, as Ike Clanton. a cowardly yet dangerous villain who fueled the conflict with the Earp family. With fierce acting and cold intensity, Lang turned what could have been a minor character into one of the film's sharpest and most haunting presences, making audiences both despise and remember him. He was born on July 11, 1952, in New York City. Though he grew up in a wealthy household, tragedy struck when his father, philanthropist businessman Eugene Lang, donated nearly his entire fortune, worth more than $150 million, to charity, leaving nothing to his children. For Stephen, it was a devastating shock. Once the youngest son in a prosperous family, he suddenly faced life with no material safety net. From that upheaval, Lang was forced to channel every ounce of determination into building his own identity. He threw himself into theater and film, driven by both the need to prove his worth and the pain of abandonment. That sense of loss and hurt infused his performances, allowing him to embody villains with chilling authenticity, from Ike Clanton in Tombstone to the blind man in Don't Breathe. Each dark role seemed to echo the injustices he had endured in his own life, leaving audiences both terrified by his characters and empathetic toward the man behind them. In 2025, Stephen Lang is 73 years old. He continues to appear in major films, including the Avatar series, but his net worth is only about $5 million, a modest figure compared to the fortune his father once controlled and gave away entirely to philanthropy. Michael Biehn as Johnny Ringo. When Michael Biehn was 37 years old, he embodied the gunslinger Johnny Ringo in Tombstone, 1993. A character who was intelligent, dangerous, and deeply tormented. Johnny Ringo was not only the perfect rival to Doc Holliday, but also the shadow looming over the entire showdown in the town of Tombstone. With fiery eyes and intensity in every gesture, Biehn delivered a performance regarded as one of the finest of his career. He was born on July 31, 1956, in Anniston, Alabama. Although he entered Hollywood with much promise, Biehn soon stumbled into a darker path, alcoholism during his 30s. What began as a way to relieve pressure grew into a nightmare that derailed his career, with major opportunities slipping away because he could not control himself. This tragedy left heavy scars. On film sets, Biehn often lost his temper, becoming irritable and clashing with directors, nearly walking away from Tombstone because of disagreements. Years earlier, during the filming of The Abyss in 1989, he had nearly drowned due to faulty diving equipment, an accident that left him haunted by water for the rest of his life. That trauma, combined with alcohol, turned him into a fragile man behind the tough exterior. It was only when faced with the risk of losing everything that he finally sought rehabilitation to salvage his career. In 2025, Michael Biehn is 69 years old. Though no longer at the peak of his Terminator or Aliens days, he continues to work in independent projects and occasionally explores directing. His net worth is estimated at around $4 million, modest compared to his former glory, but enough to sustain a quiet life with his family. Billy Bob Thornton as Johnny Tyler. When Billy Bob Thornton was 38 years old, he appeared in Tombstone, 1993, as Johnny Tyler, a rude and hot-tempered gambler. Although only a brief supporting role, Thornton's menacing glare and reckless attitude created a character audiences never forgot. With Tombstone, he proved that even in fleeting moments, he could leave a lasting impression. He was born on August 4, 1955, in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Yet his life would later be defined by a bitter theme: marriage. He walked down the aisle 6 times, endured 5 divorces, and suffered his most infamous heartbreak during his unusual romance with Angelina Jolie, 2000 to 2003. They once wore vials of each other's blood as tokens of love, but soon spiraled into arguments, suspicion, and distance. The marriage collapsed, leaving Thornton with a gaping void and pushing him into periods of depression. The pain did not stop there. Thornton had already endured the death of his brother Jimmy Don from heart disease in 1988, a wound that never healed. A car accident in the 1990s left him with a head injury, and his lifelong smoking habit made him irritable and difficult to be around. These darker aspects often dragged down his career, forcing him to struggle constantly to keep his footing in the spotlight. In 2025, at the age of 70, Billy Bob Thornton continues to create, acting, directing, and making music. His net worth is estimated at around $45 million, built from works like Sling Blade, Fargo, and more recent projects such as Landman. Dana Delany as Josephine Marcus. When Dana Delany was 37 years old, she played Josephine Marcus in Tombstone, 1993, a free-spirited, proud woman who became Wyatt Earp's final romantic love. Amid the gunsmoke, her alluring gaze and mysterious smile turned Josephine into a gentle highlight, providing emotional balance to the film. With that performance, Delany was not just a supporting character but became a symbol of independent beauty in the harsh cowboy world. Yet behind the spotlight, Dana Delany's life carried scars that could not be erased. She was born on March 13, 1956, in New York City, and just a year after Tombstone, Delany took on the project Exit to Eden, 1994. The sexually bold role immediately faced harsh criticism. Audiences called it a disgrace, critics deemed it a setback, and her reputation plummeted overnight. For an actress who had once won an Emmy, the shock felt like a heavy sentence, leaving a lingering wound in her career. Professional pain was not her only fall. In the 1980s, Delany suffered a severe horseback riding accident, leaving her with back injuries that caused chronic pain for years. In a Hollywood cruel to women, where age is constantly scrutinized, she had to fight against prejudice and public harshness. Her perfectionist nature only made every failure and every criticism weigh even heavier. In 2025, Dana Delany is 69 years old. She remains dedicated to television, maintaining her position as a testament to resilience in the industry. Her net worth is estimated at $10 million, built from milestones like China Beach and Desperate Housewives. Thomas Haden Church as Billy Clanton. When Thomas Haden Church was 33 years old, he appeared in Tombstone, 1993, as Billy Clanton, a hot-headed member of the Cowboys gang, always ready to pull the trigger. Though just one link in the group opposing the Earps, his fierce stare and towering presence left audiences with a lasting impression. It was also an important stepping stone that helped Church move beyond his image as a television actor and enter the more demanding world of cinema. He was born on June 17, 1960, in Woodland, California. But after his early successes, his private life became a painful wound. His decade-long marriage ended in divorce in 2007, leaving disputes over property and an emptiness in his heart. Once having a family and children, then forced to accept separation, this was a pain Church rarely spoke about, but it lingered in his silence in the years that followed. Personal tragedy was compounded by professional struggles. In the 1990s, he suffered a car accident that left him with physical injuries, forcing him to withdraw from several projects. In the ruthless world of Hollywood, such interruptions meant being pushed out of the spotlight and struggling to regain his place. Because of this, he chose a reclusive lifestyle, avoiding scandal, returning only when he found a role truly worthy of his presence. In 2025, Thomas Haden Church is 65 years old. He continues his artistic path, noted for Sideways and his portrayal of Sandman in Spider-Man. His net worth is estimated at $20 million, largely from major works and years of persistent effort. But behind that number is a man who endured heartbreak, physical pain, and ultimately chose solitude to preserve a sense of peace for himself. Joanna Pacula as Kate. When Joanna Pacula was 36 years old, she appeared in Tombstone, 1993, as Kate, the fierce and loyal lover of Doc Holliday. The character, both alluring and fiery, added depth to one of the most iconic westerns of the 1990s. Though it was only a supporting role, Pacula infused the screen with a rare, sharp energy that made it impossible for audiences to look away. She was born on December 30th, 1957, in Tomaszów Lubelski, Poland. But her life took a painful turn in 1981 when, while in Paris, Poland unexpectedly fell under martial law. Pacula was unable to return home, forced instead into exile, leaving behind her family, her possessions, and her budding career at the Warsaw Dramatic Theater. That tragedy of emigration turned her into someone who had to start over in a foreign land, carrying the heavy burden of homesickness for many years. From those ashes, she found a new path thanks to an introduction by Roman Polanski and quickly caught Hollywood's eye. Yet success came at a punishing price. Her daring role in Gorky Park, 1983, brought her international recognition but also branded her as the exotic, lustful foreign woman, a label that limited her career opportunities in the years that followed. The pain of losing her homeland, combined with Hollywood's gendered stereotypes, left Pacula torn between the glow of fame and the shadows of prejudice. In 2025, Joanna Pacula is 68 years old. She rarely appears on screen now, choosing a quiet life in California. Her net worth is estimated at around $4 million, not large compared to many of her peers, but the reward of a life spent persevering through loss and bias. Michael Rooker as Sherman McMasters. When Michael Rooker was 38 years old, he joined Tombstone 1993 as Sherman McMasters, a former outlaw who chose to abandon his past and stand with Wyatt Earp. Though not a central figure, Rooker's character represented redemption, showing the appeal of a man once lost now seeking a return to the light. His steady performance allowed him to stand out amid the film's star-studded cast. He was born on April 6, 1955 in Jasper, Alabama. In his youth, Rooker faced a serious motorcycle accident in the 1980s that left him with severe leg injuries. The accident not only left lasting physical effects, but also forced him to live for years with the feeling that he was constantly on the edge of life and death. For someone eager to prove himself in Hollywood, that fall became a defining scar, haunting his career ever after. Despite the physical pain, Rooker persevered in carving out a place in film. But when success came, it carried another burden. He was repeatedly typecast as coarse, violent villains. His gravelly voice and hard-edged features made him stand out, but also locked him in a cage of stereotypes. After Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer and Mississippi Burning, Hollywood labeled him the perfect villain. That repetition, though it brought him success, also fueled a bitter inner struggle as he felt denied the chance to show the full range of his talent. By 2025, Michael Rooker is 70 years old. He continues to hold a strong place in audiences' hearts with unforgettable roles like Merle Dixon in The Walking Dead and Yondu in Guardians of the Galaxy. His net worth is estimated at around $4 million. A modest sum compared to many of his Marvel colleagues, but for Rooker, it stands as proof of a career built on persistence and resilience. Paula Malcomson as Allie Earp. When Paula Malcomson was 23 years old, she appeared in Tombstone, 1993, as Allie Earp, the gentle and patient wife of Virgil Earp. In the midst of violence and death, her character brought warmth, allowing audiences to feel the silent pain of the women who lived alongside the gunslingers of the Wild West. Though only a supporting role, it was the first step that drew Hollywood's attention to Malcomson. She was born on June 1, 1970, in Belfast, Northern Ireland. Her childhood was already difficult, marked by social unrest, but her greatest pain came in the early 2000s when her father died of illness. That loss left a deep void in the actress's heart, and she often spoke of her father as a quiet source of motivation for her career. As she entered Hollywood, Malcomson faced harsh challenges. Though she landed roles in acclaimed projects such as Deadwood, Lost, and The Hunger Games, she was often tied to portrayals of sorrowful, suffering women. Her role as Trixie in Deadwood even stirred controversy, as some viewed the character as offensive, subjecting Malcomson to heavy public pressure. Yet despite it all, she remained steadfast in her craft, as if the wounds in her personal life allowed her to portray pain on screen with raw authenticity. By 2025, Paula Malcomson is 55 years old. She continues to work steadily in television, especially remembered for Ray Donovan. Her net worth is estimated at around $4 million, a modest figure, but one that reflects the hard work and perseverance of a lifetime in the profession. In an entertainment world driven by competition and scandal, Malcomson has chosen a quieter path, leaving an impression not through controversy, but through eyes filled with sorrow that evoke deep empathy from audiences. More than 3 decades have passed, and the heroes of Tombstone now remain only in memory, leaving behind tragedy, loss, and an indelible legacy. In your opinion, which of them left the deepest mark? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to discover more heartbreaking stories behind Hollywood's bright lights.